It's Wednesday, the 30th of September. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blancolirio channel. And yesterday, on 29 September, a Marine F-35B collided with its air refueling air tanker, a KC-130J, based out of Miramar, in the Kane West Military Operations Area near the Salton Sea in Southern California. Everybody survived. The F-35 pilot successfully ejected, and the KC-130 aircraft did a successful forced landing after losing at least 2 of its 4 engines. Let's go inside and take a look and see what we know so far and explain a little bit more about probe and drogue air refueling operations. Okay, starting off first, we have the press release from the Marine Corps Air Station Yuma stating that at approximately 1600 local time, it was reported that an F-35B made contact with a KC-130J during air-to-air refueling evolution, resulting in the crash of the F-35B. The pilot of the F-35B ejected successfully and is currently being treated. The KC-130J is on the deck in the vicinity of Thermal Airport. All crew members of the KC-130J have been reported safe. Now to give you a little lay of the land here in Southern California, here's the Salton Sea, here's the Kane West Military Operations Area where this flight was being operated in. It was working outside of Restricted Area 2510. Down here is where Yuma Marine Corps Air Station is located in the corner of Arizona. Over here is Miramar in San Diego where the Raider KC-130 aircraft is based out of. Here is Imperial, and here's the Thermal Airport located right up here where they were attempting to take this emergency to. This accident occurred right here just east of the town of Salton Sea. This, by the way, is Ocotillo Wells OHV riding area, a very popular riding area. It's quite heavily populated, and somebody did get a video of the final impact of the F-35 after the pilot safely ejected. We'll look at that in a second. So the F-35 ended up landing somewhere down here just west of the town of Salton City, and the C-130 ended up in a field just short of Jackie Cochran Regional Airport here at Thermal. Also witness to the event was American's Flight 237, an Airbus A321 doing its regular run from Cabo, Baja, back to Los Angeles, and flew right past the accident as it happened, and out the FO's side was witness to one of the fireballs. Here's a new eyewitness recording of the F-35 impacting the ground after the pilot safely ejected. The ejection happened well before this video clip.
Oh my God, you guys! Get it down! Get it down!
Now let's go over and visit our friend Victor at VASAviation, who's very quickly already got the ATC audio of this accident up on his website. Subscribe to Victor at VASAviation. Here's the Kane West MOA, Military Operations Area.
Raider 50, you are aware that it's currently active 10,000 to 180 or 17.9?
Affirm, we'll be in the high block. We'll be working like 16 to 18.
So that's the voice of Raider 50, the accident KC-130 aircraft, saying that he's going to be operating in the Kane West Military Operations Area outside of the Restricted Area 2510, between 16 and 18,000 feet. The Kane Military Operations Area itself goes from 10,000 feet to 17,900.
Could operate lateral confines of the Kane West, block altitude 10,000 through 17,900 and maintain 17,000 until established.
Hey, maintain 17,000 until established. Cleared to operate in confines of the Kane West MOA 10,000 to 17,900.
This gives the military air crews airspace, military operations airspace, to where they can conduct their air refueling operations unimpeded by other traffic. Now, VFR traffic can fly through a military operations area, but they know that they are in a military operations area before they fly through it.
Raider 50, radar service is terminated, frequency change approved, and contact center prior to exiting Kane West.
So then they begin to conduct their air refueling operations, and then pretty quickly, American Airlines sees the flash, and then we begin to hear from Raider 50, the KC-130 crew.
American 237, go ahead. American 237, roger. How far away? About 5 miles, you said?
LA Center, Raider 50 declaring emergency mid-air collision with Bolt 93. We have 2 engines out. We're leaking fuel and might be on fire. And an emergency descent at this time. Raider 50.
And Raider 50, I believe you were stepped on there where you said you're going down now?
We're declaring an emergency. We still have partial control of the aircraft. 2 engines out. We're aiming towards...
And Raider 50, you said you're heading towards El Centro Airport or Imperial?
No, he's not heading towards there.
Raider 50, LS? Raider 50, LS?
I believe they said they had him mid-air and 2 engines out.
And center not to clog the frequency, 979 Charlie Fox. We got a plume of black smoke on the ground in that MOA that, happened about the time he called for the emergency. So there's at least 1 aircraft down, it looks like.
Okay, thank you.
The impact was prior to his last transmission, though.
Okay, so they're talking about the plume of smoke that they're seeing from the F-35 as it hit the ground after the pilot safely ejected.
Raider 50, I'm sorry, you said you're going to thermal now? Raider 50, roger. And Raider 50, the wind is 150 at 08 knots.
So Radar 50 is heading north towards the thermal airport, just trying to get this thing on the ground as quick as he can.
Okay, Radar 50, you said number 4 and number 3?
That's number 3 and number 4 engine, the 2 engines on the right-hand side, and when we look at the pictures, you'll see why.
Radar 50, do you have the airport in sight that you're 12 o'clock, about 15 miles? And Radar 50, the thermal Unicom frequency 123.0.
That's the Unicom frequency for the thermal airport, an uncontrolled airport just here to the north of the Salton Sea.
The F-35 wreckage.
Here's another shot of the F-35 after it hit the ground.
It was definitely loud. I mean, it shook the house. We felt it in your chest. It felt to me like a 3 or 4 earthquake.
Nerves rattled, but a potentially.
Now let's take a closer look at this C-130 damage. Okay, good head-on shot of the KC-130J after it landed in the field short of the thermal airfield. And from this view, it looks to me like there's only one potentially operational engine left on this aircraft, the number 2 engine. So here's the number 3 and 4 engines that the pilot of Radar 50 was talking about on his emergency descent. There's 2 external fuel tanks located here and here on the KC-130, and then there's these 2 refueling pods supposed to be located here and over here. I believe he had both pods at this time. These pods are removable. This pod may have not been installed. I'm not sure, but it sure looks like a lot of fuel pouring out of that left wing at this time. And what happened to this prop on the number 1 engine here? Was that damaged in the midair as well, or was this prop damaged or lost in the forced landing? At any rate, this pilot was down to only 2 engines, and the C-130 will fly fine on 2 engines, but fuel leaking, fire, and or only 1 engine, you got to land right now. So with the damage to this tank here and the loss of these 2 propellers here, it looks to me as if the air refueling aircraft came up from behind, overshot perhaps his refueling run, or did something happen with the C-130 that caused him to suddenly no longer be a stable lead aircraft. As the tanker, you have to be a very stable lead aircraft and hold your speed perfectly. Was there something in the C-130 flight that caused them to suddenly lose speed or back up onto the receiving aircraft, or did the receiving aircraft simply overshoot and come up and impact in between these two engines, number 2 and 3, damaging this tank here and taking out these propellers? From this view, it looks like just one propeller blade is missing from the number 1 engine, but it looks like there's significant damage to the remaining blades on the number 1 engine. Again, was that caused during the midair or during the forced landing? Here we can also see additional damage on the number 4 engine where the cowling is beginning to peel open. But the C-130 is a tough old bird. By the way, you can tell this is obviously a later J model C-130 by the 5-bladed propellers. My experience in the C-130 was the earlier models. Now let's go over to AirBoyd's YouTube channel, another great aviation channel that I highly recommend subscribing to, and see how this is supposed to work. This is Drogue and Probe air refueling out of the KC-130. The KC-130 can offload as much as 50,000 pounds of fuel using these retractable hoses that come out of the pods towards the wingtip of the aircraft. The receiving aircraft needs to rejoin and creep up on this drogue chute at about a walking pace, 2 knots. Now see, he's starting to go a little too far forward there. You need to rejoin and poke the probe into that drogue chute at about a walking pace, and then maintain your position with the aircraft. Meanwhile, this hose can reel in and out and adjust the tension on the hose needed to keep the proper tension on the hose while the fuel is being transferred to prevent the hose from flopping around and or potentially shearing off of the probe. The probe is designed to shear if it gets an excessive side load from the drogue itself. Now here's another view of this same operation from the AirSource Military channel. These two guys here with their harnesses on are load masters, or in this operation are the observers of the air refueling flight. Let me pause for a second. My air refueling experience is limited to boom operations. This was in the C-141 working with KC-10 air tankers and KC-135 air tankers. In a stiff boom operation, you have a boom operator, an enlisted guy, a very experienced enlisted guy that will fly the boom and connect to your aircraft right behind the cockpit. In this drogue and parachute operation, there is no boom operator. There's these two observers or load masters which communicate with the crew above. There's a total of 5 crew members on board the KC-130J aircraft, 2 pilots, 1 engineer, refueler, if you will, and then these 2 observers are load masters. It's critical that these 2 load master observers relate to the flight crew exactly what's going on with the refueling operation in the back of the aircraft. These are the only 2 guys that can see what's going on at the end of the drogue. So the eyewitness accounts from these 2 individuals in this crash will be key to the investigation. So that's why they're wearing the harness, because they're going to open up the ramp to the C-130 to observe the refueling operation. Now this is a night refueling operation, the F-35s with their formation lights on. Again, they need to get in the pre-contact position, and they need to establish themselves behind and below the drogue slightly. And the drogue is just flying around in the wind, and the bow wave from your receiving aircraft can move that drogue around, and you got to poke your retractable probe into that drogue. And you need to poke it in there a couple of feet so that you can begin the flow of the fuel. Very delicate operation. This is the kind of skill you have. It's called a perishable skill because you have to practice it all the time. And the importance of this skill is this is the way you're able to move air assets around the world quickly, because the fighters have limited range, especially also aircraft that are operating off of aircraft carriers. They need to be able to quickly refuel, especially if there's a problem getting back onto the carrier. boom, he's made contact, he's receiving fuel, and now that fuel hose is adjusting its tension. Sometimes they got to break away, sometimes they disconnect, and they got to reconnect. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, you guys that are current and qualified in this operation. What is the command for these two observers if the situation develops into a dangerous situation? As I vaguely recall, the call was breakaway, breakaway, breakaway to command both aircraft to safely and quickly separate from each other if in the event things develop into an unsafe situation with this formation. There is no more demanding flying in the military than air refueling at night, air refueling at night in the weather. This is all hand flown. You cannot fly on instruments as the receiver aircraft. You have to fly off of visual reference from the lead aircraft. And the lead aircraft needs to always fly a very stable platform. So this will be a very interesting accident investigation report to review. There's no room for error in this sort of operation and no room for any form of distracted flying. I hope this gives you a little better understanding of probe and drogue air refueling operations and what we know about yesterday's accident at this time. Thanks so much for your support here, and especially those on Patreon that make this content possible, because quite often when we review these accidents on YouTube, this material is considered unsuitable for advertising and is demonetized. Thank you for your support. See you here.